Bathroom Breaks and Bedtime Tales presents The Apology Roster by Sevastian Winters. The platoon moves into the courtyard quickly and efficiently, as they've done too many times to count. The dry desert air keeps Roe from sweating, but the heat is still nearly unbearable. He raises his fist, and the stack stops. Not because anything has gone wrong, because the door is still closed, and every second it stays that way increases the chance that the decision on the other side will be the wrong one. "Tell them to open it," Rose says. The interpreter speaks a careful, flattening command into request in his native Farsi. Roe watches the breacher's hands hover near the tools, watches the point man shift his weight to keep blood moving through his legs. No one looks at him. Everyone looks at the door. A woman answers from inside, fast, angry. The interpreter hesitates, then translates. She says you don't have the right. Roe nods once. "Tell her we're coming in anyway." The answer that comes back is shorter. Roe lowers his fist. The charge snaps. Metal shrieks and folds inward. The gate collapses, and the stack pours through the opening. Rifles up, muzzles disciplined, movement tight and rehearsed. Roe is last inside, boots hitting concrete, eyes cutting left then right, cataloging bodies and corners and hands. A woman stands in the doorway to the main room, palms raised, jaw set. Two children press into the wall behind her, eyes wide, silent. A dog scrambles away, nails skittering. Roe lifts his empty hand. "We're sorry," he says, "because it costs nothing, and sometimes it buys seconds." The interpreter repeats it. The woman spits on the floor. They search the rooms. Mattresses, plastic buckets, a photograph of an old man taped crookedly to the wall. No weapons, no wires, no reason for the gate to have been locked except fear. Roe feels relief settle, then the familiar follow-on anger that they were wrong and still had to be here. They step back into the street. Dust hangs in the air where the gate fell. The woman is shouting now, words sharp and useless. Roe doesn't understand them, but he understands the shape of the sound. "I'm sorry," he tells the breacher as they regroup, because the man's hands are shaking, and because Roe does not know what else to do with the fact that they just tore open someone's mourning and found nothing. The breacher nods. "All good, sir." Roe knows it isn't. They move 2 blocks east and stop where the street opens up. Burned-out cars sit nose to nose like animals that died fighting. Men watch from behind a half-collapsed wall, eyes flat. The sun is already high enough to make the heat press down through the armor. Lieutenant Mara Kincaid waits by the lead MRAP, helmet off, folder tucked under her arm. She doesn't salute. She doesn't need to. "Captain," she says. Roe steps closer. "Lieutenant." She opens the folder and holds out a single page. Coordinates. Block text. No letterhead, no routing stamps. The paper is warm from being held too long. "This is time-sensitive," Kincaid says. "Cash. Components. We hit it now, we cut the next week of roadside bombs in half." Roe scans the page. The location is close.
too close to the market road his men use. He looks back up. "This didn't come through the battalion," he says.
"No," Kincaid answers. "It didn't."
"Where did it come from?" She meets his eyes. "From someone who won't survive paperwork." Rowe lets the silence stretch. Radios murmur. An engine idles. Somewhere nearby, a generator kicks over and settles into a steady rattle. "If this is wrong," Rowe starts. "It isn't," Kincaid says. "That's not proof. It's pressure." Rowe looks past her at his platoon leaders. Men he knows well enough to read in the way they check their gear. He imagines the market road tomorrow, the shape of an explosion, the sound a vehicle makes when it stops being a vehicle. He hands the paper back. "I'm sorry," he says, because he always is. Kincaid's mouth tightens. "Don't apologize. Just decide." Rowe turns. We move. Orders go out. Engines rev. The convoy rolls east toward the coordinates on a page that does not exist anywhere else. Inside the MRAP, the air thickens with heat and rubber. Kincaid sits across from him, hands still, eyes fixed on nothing. Rowe watches the city slide past through armored glass and tells himself that this is what the job looks like when it's done right. Quick decisions, clean results, fewer names added to lists. They dismount behind a low wall near the target building. The door is padlocked, new metal bright against old rust. Rowe lifts his fist again. The stack forms. He glances once at Kincaid. "You sure?" She nods. "Yes." Rowe lowers his hand. The lock breaks. The door opens. Inside, the room is cool and packed tight with pipes, wire, and bags of powder stacked like they belong there. One of his sergeants exhales. "Jesus." Rowe keys his radio. "EOD, confirmed cache." Relief moves through the room, quiet and heavy. Outside, the city keeps going. Somewhere, a call to prayer drifts over the rooftops. Rowe looks at the explosives, then at his people, alive and breathing, and lets himself believe, for just a moment, that this is how it works when you make the hard call. The cache changes things. Not immediately, not on paper, but in the way Rowe's name starts showing up in places it didn't before. 2 days later, he's standing in the shade of a concrete overhang while a major from battalion flips through a clipboard and nods along to a story that sounds cleaner every time it's told. The cache is photographed, cataloged, blown in place. EOD was impressed. Battalion likes to be impressed. Someone higher up calls it initiative. Rowe nods when he's supposed to. He apologizes when the major points out that the intel packet was thin. "Won't happen again, sir," Rowe says, and means it in the way people mean things that already belong to the past. The major waves it off. "You got results. That's what matters." Results start to stack. The next packet comes faster. Same source, same lack of paperwork. Different neighborhood. This one's a house near a water treatment plant, far enough from the market road that Rowe doesn't feel the same spike of dread when he reads it. He asks fewer questions. He doesn't say, "I'm sorry," when he gives the order. The house is occupied. 3 men, all military age. No women, no kids. They run when the stack hits the door. One trips in the alley and goes down hard. His hands come up late, too late, and a shot cracks in the narrow space, sharp and final. The sound echoes longer than it should. Rowe is there in seconds. The man on the ground isn't moving. Blood pools against the curb, dark and fast. One of Rowe's soldiers stands over him, rifle shaking, eyes wide. "He reached," the soldier says. "I swear, sir, he—" Rowe puts a hand on the man's shoulder. "It's okay," he says. He doesn't know if it is. "I've got you." They find weapons inside the house. Old ones, rusted. Enough to justify the report. Rowe apologizes to the platoon that night. He apologizes to the soldier who fired. He apologizes to the interpreter, who doesn't look at him when he translates the explanation to the family that comes screaming out of a neighboring building. He does not apologize to the man on the ground. There is no one left to hear it. The third packet arrives during a sandstorm. The sky turns the color of old pennies, and the air goes thick enough that breathing feels like work. Visibility drops to nothing. Patrols are pulled in. Vehicles sit idling, engines coughing as grit gets everywhere it shouldn't. Kincaid finds Rowe in the talk, standing over a map with a cup of coffee gone cold in his hand. "This one's important," she says, louder than usual to cut through the wind. "They're moving tonight." Rowe squints at the paper. The coordinates put the target on the edge of a dense neighborhood, one of those places where the streets narrow until the buildings touch and the roofs are connected by boards and tarps and 100 ways to disappear. "Tonight?" Rowe asks. "In this?" "They won't expect it," Kincaid says. "They also won't expect us to see anything." She leans in, lowering her voice. "If we wait, it's gone." Okay. He feels the weight of the decision settle into his chest. He pictures his men moving blind through blowing sand, fingers tight on triggers, silhouettes appearing where they shouldn't. He also pictures the report that will cross someone's desk if another vehicle hits an IED on a road he chose not to protect. "Okay," he says, after a moment. "We go." The operation is chaos. The sandstorm turns the world into noise and motion. Radios crackle with half-heard calls. Shapes loom and vanish. Someone stumbles and swears. A door slams somewhere to the left, and a shadow runs across a rooftop. Rowe shouts orders until his throat burns. He loses track of one fire team for 30 seconds, seconds that feel like hours. When they reappear, dragging a man between them, Rowe's relief is sharp enough to hurt. The man they have is young, barely more than a boy. He's coughing sand, eyes streaming, wrists zip-tied behind his back. He screams something over and over that the interpreter can't quite make out over the wind. They find the cache in a back room, buried under sacks of grain. Not as much as the last one. Enough. When it's over, 3 civilians are wounded by flying debris. One is a woman hit by a ricochet that no one can quite explain. She survives, barely. Rowe apologizes at the hospital. He apologizes to the doctor, to the interpreter, to the woman's husband, who listens with a flat expression and says nothing. That apology stays with him longer than the others. The next morning, there's a new presence in the TOC. Two men in clean uniforms sit at the folding table, boots spotless, faces unreadable. They don't introduce themselves right away. They don't need to. "Captain Rowe," one of them says finally, "we're conducting a routine review." Rowe nods. "Of course." They ask about the first cache, then the second, then the third. They ask about sources, about documentation, about why certain packets didn't appear in the system until after the fact. Rowe answers carefully. He keeps his voice level. He uses words like time-sensitive and operational necessity. They take notes. They thank him for his cooperation. After they leave, Kincaid is standing in the doorway, arms folded. "You didn't have to give them that much," she says. "I gave them what was true," Rowe replies. She shakes her head. "You gave them a trail." Rowe feels irritation flare, quick and hot. If there's nothing wrong, there's nothing to worry about. Kincaid's laugh is short. "That's not how this works." He studies her face, the tightness around her eyes. "Then how does it work?" She looks away. "You do the job. You let me worry about the rest." That night, Rowe sits alone with the reports spread out in front of him. He notices things he didn't before. Timestamps that don't line up. Names that recur in odd places. Intel summaries that sound like each other even when the situations don't. He realizes, slowly, that Kincaid has been shaping what he sees. Not inventing, not lying outright, just curating, protecting something, or someone. He calls her into the TOC. "Who is he?" Rowe asks when she arrives. Kincaid's posture stiffens. "Who?" "The source," Rowe says. "The one who doesn't survive paperwork." She closes the door behind her. "You don't want to know." "I already do." Silence stretches between them, thick as the dust still coating the walls. "He's not part of your chain," Kincaid says finally. "He's not part of mine either, but he's saved lives." "And you're loyal to him." "I'm loyal to the work," she says, too fast. Rowe leans back in his chair. The room feels smaller. "If this comes out—" "It won't," Kincaid says, "if we keep winning." Rowe looks down at the reports again. He sees now how narrow the path has become. Full disclosure means pulling every operation they've run into question. It means exposing his decisions, his compromises, the bodies that sit just outside the margins of success. It means stopping. Containment means the opposite. Adjusting reports, omitting details, making sure the trail leads nowhere dangerous. Rowe closes the folder. "I'm sorry," he says, out of habit, and then stops himself halfway through the word. Kincaid watches him closely. "What are you going to do?" she asks. Rowe exhales slowly. The sandstorm has settled, but the air inside him still feels thick. "We can't let this unravel," he says. "It's not an order yet, not officially,
but it is a choice. Rowe signs the revised report before dawn. He doesn't rush it. He reads each line slowly, pen hovering as if the words might change if he looks at them long enough. He adjusts timestamps. He removes a name. He replaces a paragraph with a shorter one that says less and implies competence. The report is clean, cleaner than the night it describes. He does not apologize while he signs it. The next operation goes smoother than it should. The source delivers early. The location is empty by the time Rowe's men arrive, but the secondary site is not. They find weapons staged for movement, detonators sealed against dust, a crude map marked with roads Rowe knows by heart. The find validates everything they've been doing, and it arrives just in time. Command calls it momentum. Rowe's company becomes the quiet answer whenever someone asks how to get results without burning the city down. His men are reassigned less. Requests for his presence stack up. A colonel stops by the TOC and thanks him for holding the line. Rowe nods. He accepts the praise the way he accepts orders, without comment. Kincaid brings him coffee one night and sets it down without speaking. She doesn't mention the report. She doesn't mention the investigation. She doesn't need to. Something in Rowe has settled. The tension he used to feel before decisions has flattened into certainty. He gives instructions without hedging. He interrupts less. When someone questions an order, he answers with procedure instead of explanation. The apology roster, the running joke among his platoon leaders, the quiet tally of every sorry he used to hand out like spare change, goes untouched for days at a time. The investigators return the following week. This time, they don't ask for permission to sit down. They spread documents across the folding table in the TOC. Photographs, logs, statements from civilians, filtered through translators who have learned how to make grief sound neutral. They don't accuse. They don't raise their voices. They show patterns. Rowe recognizes his own language in the reports, the phrasing, the justifications. He sees how consistency becomes its own evidence. This discrepancy, one of them says, tapping a page, appears in 3 separate operations. Time-sensitive conditions. And this source, the other asks, still unregistered. Rowe meets his gaze. Operational necessity. They exchange a look. It's not surprise, it's confirmation. Kincaid stands at the back of the room, arms crossed, expression unreadable. She does not intervene. There is nothing left to intervene with. The investigators leave with copies. They do not take Rowe with them. Not yet. Command relieves him that afternoon. Temporarily, they say, pending review. Rowe hands over the company to his XO without ceremony. He listens as orders are acknowledged, as call signs change hands. His men avoid his eyes. One of them starts to say something loyal, something unnecessary, and stops. Rowe packs his gear in silence. That night, he sits alone in the barracks room assigned to officers in transit. The air conditioner rattles. Outside, the city hums,
unbothered by his absence. Kincaid finds him there. "They're not charging you yet," she says.
Rowe doesn't look up. "It's under control, Lieutenant." She shifts her weight. "If you stick to the story—"
"There is no story," Rowe says. His voice is calm. "There's a record." She hesitates, then nods once. "I did what needed doing." "So did I," Rowe replies. She studies him, searching for something familiar. "I'm sorry. I should have told the—" Rowe raises his hand to stop her. She complies. "Lieutenant," he says sternly, "do you know why you're the only soldier in this company who doesn't have to salute me?" "Because I'm not in your chain of command, sir." "That's right," he says, more gruffly than he means. "You're intelligence. I'm command." She stands to attention anyhow, and the two lock eyes. Rowe continues. "Lieutenant, did you do your job?" "Yes, sir, I did." "And are you responsible for what I do with the information I'm given, or is that my job?" "But, sir, I asked you a direct question, Lieutenant." "Sir, what the captain does with the information given to him by the intelligence liaison is the captain's decision, sir, but—" "There's no but, Lieutenant. I knew what I was doing. I made a command decision, and frankly, it turned out to be bad luck." "Bad luck, sir?" "That civilian we killed happens to be the brother of Colonel Stewart's favorite in-theater distraction, so the colonel had to do something. That said, I suspect that what I know about him will settle things down enough, once I'm back in D.C., that I'll keep my rank. Still be out, though. Full honors, of course." "But, sir, that's not fair. Every captain I have worked with here in country would have done the same thing you did." He studies her carefully for a moment before he replies. "Well, that's not the way the chain of command is supposed to operate. I knew the rules. I chose expedience over chain of command and took matters into my own hands." He pauses. He shrugs, smirks, and continues quietly. "And I do it again. They know it. I know it." She opens her mouth to speak, but the flicker of kindness in his eyes tells her not to. "It's time for me to go home," he says, so soft it's almost a whisper. She nods. "So, it's done, sir?" He winks. "It's done." He turns to walk away, and then, momentarily, turns back. "You're good at this, Lieutenant. But don't start thinking truth and power ever share a foxhole. They never have. They never will." For the first and last time, she salutes him. He smiles. "Keep your head down, soldier." "Sir?" "Yes, sir," she replies. As he predicted, the court-martial doesn't happen, but the process takes months. Rowe answers every question directly. He does not argue intent. He does not offer justification. He explains what he did, when he did it, and why the system made the choices available. The system listens. The system decides. Rowe is removed from command. He is retired without a reduction in rank.
His career ends without spectacle. The war continues. A new captain takes over the company. Operations resume. Procedures tighten. The city absorbs the shift and carries on. The colonel has the audacity to apologize to him in private before returning to Baghdad. Rowe has the life experience to accept it, but the self-respect to withhold his salute. He is flown out at dawn, the same way he arrived, with less equipment and no one waiting at the other end. He's been too married to his career to ever start a family. As the aircraft lifts through the dark gray rain of the late autumn morning, he looks down at the patchwork of rooftops, the narrow streets already filled with movement. He reaches in his breast pocket and pulls out a worn picture, his own. It has traveled with him for 3 foreign tours, 2 in combat zones. The day he graduated from boot camp. "I'm sorry," he whispers, as the plane breaks through the clouds into a bright blue sky.